It stopped it. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. It's fantastic to have you guys here today because we are revisiting one of my very first project videos, which was recycling milk jugs into ballistic plates. Now you guys had a lot to say about how you would like to see this taken even further. So many different suggestions, from making the plates thicker and adding steel or adding ceramics, using Kevlar or carbon fiber, right? So I made up 5 new plates, made them thicker, and tried out some of these variables with the intent of trying to stop higher caliber rounds. Because in the initial project we tested it against a 9mm 380 38 special. It was impressive at how much damage it could take, but you guys wanted to know, well, what about the 45 ACP, right? What about the 357 Magnum or 44 Magnum? What about rifle rounds? 223, 556, 7.62 by 39. What about shotguns? So I pushed these to the utmost limit over 2 days of shooting that will be edited down for your enjoyment. And it really turned out amazing, guys. I'm going to take all the information I learned from molding these plates so that I can now make a 12 by 10 chest insert that will be lightweight and hopefully as reliable as these plates have shown to be. So if you're interested in that sort of project, make sure to subscribe so that way you'll get an update when that is finished. Now let's cover real quickly what's going to happen in this video. First, I'm going to show you the 5 plates and the different variables that I added to them. Then we're going straight out to the range for some good old-fashioned shooting footage, and then followed up by how I actually molded and made these. And then in the final thoughts at the very end, I want to talk to you about how we can actually improve this even further. Because there is something I discovered that I didn't know about plastics in general, in particular high density polyethylene, on how we can bring out even more of that impact resilience that this plastic has. So we could potentially have thinner plates capable of stopping even higher rounds. It blew my mind, and I am so excited to try it out. So that's a lot to cover. Let's get started. Alright, so I just want to briefly talk to you guys about the 5 plates that I made up to test. First one up is nothing more than just HDPE, 3/4 of a pound, right? This one was wrapped with fiberglass, much like the previous test I had done. Nothing else added to it, and the plates are all consistent throughout it. All of them were made up to 3/4 of a pound, which came out to right around an inch. Okay, so this one was just fiberglass. This one was fiberglass, but it also had, if you can tell, ceramic added to the base and steel plates added to the back, which were 3/16 of an inch thick and just a normal old porcelain plate on the front. Then we have the nylon, also had ceramic and steel added to the back, and then ballistic grade Kevlar. So we tested all of these out. And honestly, this one is probably my favorite, the just basic fiberglass added one, but this one also performed remarkably. So the total weight was, this bumped up to 1 pound with the fiberglass reinforcement. This was 1.5 with the ceramic and steel. These two were about 2 pounds. Okay, so really not too bad. Really not too bad for a 5x5. So when we make the 12 by 10, it really won't be too bad. But I want to briefly discuss why these holes, as you can see, are all the way through. HDPE does this really remarkable thing that it undergoes plastic deformation, right? And it stretches out when it's hit. Right there you can see is where it was shot twice in the same area. You can see some small cracking, but for the most part it stretches and deforms, and that's how it makes the bullet lose its energy when it passes through it. But if it's not under compression, if you do not wrap it with some sort of composite material, okay, the bullet will go right through unless it's a hollow point. These 2 holes were from a 45 and a 357 Magnum. We picked up some hollow points for it, and it just confirmed my theory. This one was stuck right into, like, just right here, and this one was found in the clay right behind it. Okay? Because I backed them all with a ballistic clay, even though it was too hot to honestly get a good reading. But I've noticed this when I was testing it before, something that was happening, and my theory is that when the plate is shot, the plastic moves out of the way, and that absorbs the energy from the bullet because it doesn't crack. It's not brittle, right? I mean, you can tell it is not a brittle plastic. It's very ductile, right? It undergoes plastic deformation. And it's not very elastic either. And that's the loss of energy as the bullet passes through. But if the plastic can move out of the way, if it can stretch effectively, the bullet will still maintain some energy and pass through. But if you compress it, right? If you compress it, that's when you start seeing the bullet stopping. And to a remarkable amount. I mean, look how much buckshot and the amount of bullets that this thing took, right, is incredible. So let's get out to the range. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Alright, today's the day for the big shoot. You can see we got a setup here. Up first is going to be just the plain HDPE plate and the fiberglass wrapped one with nothing else added. 3/4 of an inch thick. They're backed by ballistic clay so we can get a reading. Sad thing is, it's so hot out here, it's already really malleable. Far too much to get an accurate reading, but we'll still get a reading, even though we won't be able to determine really if it was a lethal shot or not. But we'll still be able to get some data, see what kind of rounds these can stop. We're going to start with the 22 and move our way up to the 44 Magnum. In the description will be a full list of everything that was shot at the plates. I did not have that information at the time of editing. Most of these guns are my father's, so as soon as I get that information, I'll make sure to put it there.
There you go. There we go. There.
Yep.
Caught it in the corner. Dead center.
Nice shot. Nice. Alright, yeah, see? Just continues to confirm it. 44 or 45 right there. Thin layers of composite added. And you can see the bullet stuck right there. Let me see if I can't get this tape off. Yeah, it sucks it's so hot out here today. Once we could get a better reading on this back face, but it's really not even deformed. Just with this thin layer of fiberglass added to it. Not very much, man. Not very much, and it's not even penetrating. With just the addition of a little bit of composites. If you look at this, that went right through. You can see right through the wood in the back. Blew right through.
The 45 blew right through?
Blew right through. You can see all the way through. That just goes to show you, barely, look, with the 45, no back face deformation from the shot. The energy didn't even transfer all the way through. But that, yeah, that would kill you. So let's, we'll take this off. We'll just continue to shoot this one until we get some penetration. Well, I think that was to the... All right.
One more.
All right. Yeah.
Say when.
Big old 44 Magnum. Whenever you're ready. There you go. There you go. We shot it with the 44 Magnum as well. So you got it stuck up there, and there it is. I just plucked it out. Wanted to just show you guys. One of them skirted out the side, so he's reloading. Flip the plate over so he can shoot at it. Oh, actually I want it all facing the same way, but right there's where the 357 Magnum stopped and the 44 Magnum stopped. Right here on this edge. You can see it. So it did stop magnums. I cannot believe it stopped magnums. So we're gonna shoot it again with the 44. That's so nice. That's so nice. Saying if you saw where I was hitting. I was saying if you saw where I was hitting.
That hit it.
Oh, double-aught buck, 12 gauge shotgun. Okay. Yeah, look, all that buckshot. Extra shots from a 45 and a 357 Magnum. The only thing that still come anywhere close to coming through was that 44 Magnum. That one and that one was from a 44 Magnum. You know, obviously there has been some grazes and one that clipped out and kind of skirted out. You can see that right here, right? It came and went through like that. But with it at a 90 and all the other damage, you can see all the lead shot from the double-aught and from the 380, 38 special, nothing, no penetration. That's a very impressive feat for just some recycled milk jugs and some cheap fiberglass, right? That's what I'm talking about. Let's try some rifles. Get out. There we go. There. It stopped them. Holy crap, it actually stopped some rifle rounds. Are you kidding me? Now on to the 7.62 by 39. Shot from an SKS. Whenever you're ready, Pops. Nice hit. Ready, Pops. Nice hit. Let's see. Ooh, boy. Huh. Yeah, that's good. Let's check it real quick. That's good. By this point, bullets must be making it through. No! Still, only the one shot made it through. Check that out. Here we go, a couple more shots. It's just... Finally, there we go. I don't know at what point it finally gave, but it did give up the ghost. It finally gave in. But it took a significant beating before that fact. Significant. All right. Nice. Nice shot.
Right when you think it's going off, you still got the hole.
It stopped it.
Makes me jump.
Yep. Boy, that's SKS is hard to stop. Oh, it missed the metal. It skirted right through and missed the metal. There.
Yeah. Where did I hit those last two?
1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see. Actually, there's only 2 holes. Okay, so it did stop another one. Now shooting the Mosin-Nagant. Yep. Yes, sir. Yep. No way. No freaking way. It slowed it down. Opened it up, but there is no way. Just too powerful. Just too powerful. Not with this material, at least. Not with this material. So, there we have it. The SKS. There we go. Let's take a look real quick. The SKS. No, it's blowing it apart. I mean, you did hit like right where the other one... I don't know. I don't know if that was the initial hole or if not. That was bottom left, I think. I think it was dead center almost. Good, some clay came back at me.
That's it.
Awesome. That was bottom left, I think. It was dead center almost. Good, some clay came back at me. Alright, so I just ripped them apart. I wanted to show you guys kind of the final result. So here's the one that was nothing but fiberglass. Check out all the bullets that I found so far. Right there, man, my dad's shooting is so good. He hit right in like the same spot with the 357 Magnum and the 44 Magnum. And that's where we got like some penetration. And I don't know if it actually made it all the way through. I mean, it's stuck on the inside in there. You can see it from it hitting that other bullet. Look at all the buckshot in the front. Isn't that awesome? So many rounds of buckshot. It blew some of the bullets off. I saw them in the film actually flying off. But this one, the one that stopped all them 223 rounds. Look at that back of that plate. Look at that silver from all the lead. And those bullets just exploding. Right? Look at that. Isn't that amazing? It's actually silvery in there. I don't know how many ended up passing through, but it took a beating before I finally gave up the ghost. I bet I could count the holes. Yeah, I bet I could. But yeah, so, but you know what? You know, that's kind of the problem with ceramics, right? Is that when it gives, boy, it gives. Here's the nylon one. Right, look at the jacket stuck in it. More fragments. And I also think that if you did a full sheet instead of these small ones, these, it was, you know, 13, what is it, 3/16 inch thick. If you would have done a full one, I bet you wouldn't have had as many of these where it caught the side and slipped through like that because it started to bend and deform. I bet we would have had better readings if they were thicker, or not thicker, but wider. And also begs the question, if we got rid of the ceramics, because the ceramics just turned to like ash, right? It just turned to dust when we started opening it up with the 223. I wonder if it was, if we just had like a little bit thicker steel or a better grade that was solid, would it have performed better? And I bet it would have. So, yep. And here's the nylon one. There's the SKS ammunition stuck right in the back. Look at that. That's pretty awesome. Awesome, man. We stopped some good bullets this time, guys. Way better than those first plates, right? We bumped it up. We proved that you could stop rifles. Especially, you know, it's worth looking into. So, alright, I'll show you how I molded them. Alright, so I have all the HDPE milk jugs and water jugs cut up into these little chips that you can see here. Laid out on a non-stick cookie sheet pan. The oven is set to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, or 176.6 degrees Celsius if you live somewhere else in the world. Now it's good to lay it out like this so that way it will melt quicker. If it's too bundled up, it'll melt slower. So just laying it out, I'm going to pop it in, and I'll show you as it starts to become more transparent and what to look for. Alright, so it's been in for about 15 minutes. Let's take a look. You can see most of it is completely melted. There's still some spots that are a little white, but for the most part, you see how transparent it becomes? This is why I like using milk jugs and water jugs over other things, because it's harder to tell when it is finally getting to that point. So we're going to start folding it up on itself, trying to reduce its size into the close approximation of the shape we want it in, and then we're going to fold it and roll it to make sure it's all one piece. You can see here I'm just continually rolling it over on itself, trying to get it down into a ball shape. Then I will roll it out and do that process over and over again, about 2 to 3 times, just to make sure there's no creases from the previous pieces. And the second it starts cooling, it starts turning to that white again. So then you just put it back in the oven and do it again. And you know, you can stretch it and form it. And as you can see here, I'm wearing just simple gloves rather than any other equipment. But you can use a rolling pin, and that is also very effective. But yeah, just get it close to the shape of the mold. Alright, so it's time to put the plastic into the mold. You can see I made a little bit thicker mold than I had before, which also kind of slows down how quickly the plastic can cool because of how thick these walls are. And what you want to do is use parchment paper so it doesn't stick to the wood, and Vaseline. This by far is the best way. Seasoning the wood a little bit with some Vaseline. Just getting in there and smudging it all around really helps prevent that HDPE from sticking to the wood. And it also helps keep the parchment paper in place when you put the plastic in. So, although you could probably get away with just using Vaseline, I prefer to add parchment paper to the mold. I used to put everything on the parchment paper, like all the plastic, but the problem is a lot of it ended up into the plastic. So instead I just got non-stick cookie sheets, and that works great. I mean, you just have to let it cool down a little bit and it'll come right off of there. You can see I'm picking it up now and trying to form it as close to the shape of the mold that is going in as possible, so that way it's more consistent when I start applying pressure. So you can see now I'm just mushing around. You get a little bit of time to work with, even though it cools very fast. Once it's, you know, in that almost pure transparent state, it's easy to work with. So now you see I'm just putting it in the clamp, and yep, just tensioning it down. I like the big quick grips like those, and then yeah, the little bit smaller grips afterwards, and just move them around, get them consistent, and make sure all the corners are compressed and even. Alright, so let's get on to the composite wrap job that I did. Now, the resin I'm using is the Max Bond resin that I made for both my mask and my hat insert. So if you watch those builds, you know that I've very confident and familiar with this resin. It's one of my favorite to work with because it's a non-critical ratio. There'll be a link in the description. You could probably get away with using the cheap Bondo resin too. I mean, I've used that plenty of times, but this is my preferred go-to if I'm trying to make the strongest possible plates. And it is just an exceptional resin to work with, and it's quite thick, but it wets out the fabric pretty well. Now I'm just brushing it on, and I'm planning on rolling it up. You can see how I'm setting up the plate on the surface already, rolling it over, and I'm gluing the metal to the back side next. You know, I wish I would have found some 3/16 inch like full-on plates that I could use instead of these long strips. This is all I had for a resource, so it's what I ended up using, but I really do think that some of the failures happened because it wasn't a solid piece of metal, but rather multiple pieces like that. So anyways, and so as you can see, just roll it over on itself, continue to compress the fabric to try to work out any air pockets, and just apply extra resin. I used up 6 ounces on each plate, I should mention. I made up 8, but then 2 or 3 carried over, so it was about 6 ounces for each. And the fiberglass one that I used was fiberglass that came from a welding blanket. I should also mention that part. So you just continue to fold it over on itself like that, pressing it and molding it, and then I really like to just kind of run my hands around it like that to really compress the fibers and really get some good tension on the plates, and that appears to work really well at removing any air bubbles. So alright, well there you have it. HDPE can in fact be utilized to slow a bullet down enough to stop it, including high caliber rounds. Well, higher caliber rounds than 9mm and 380, right? And that's quite impressive. I mean, we did in fact stop some rifle rounds. Sure, some of them made it through, but I think that's partially from the inconsistency with the metal behind it, because it would separate and sometimes the bullet would go through. You know, it leaves so much more to wonder. If you use smaller ceramic tiles rather than, as long as they were porcelain, rather than the large ones, right? What if you use slightly thicker metal? And what if you could improve the impact resistance of high density polyethylene? Well, turns out you can. And I was completely unaware of this for, well, ever. And I just learned it while I was researching high density polyethylene for this video, through a process known as annealing. That's right, much like steel and other types of metal and glass, plastic can actually be annealed to increase its break strength. And from certain articles I've been reading about it, it can increase it up to 2 to 3 times as much of impact resistance. Which blows my mind, because now that means, does that mean that we can make it even thinner? Right? Because the tests that were done after annealed HDPE really indicate that it could increase its break strength and its impact resistance. And the process doesn't seem that hard. I mean, we already use an oven to melt it and fabricate it in the first plate into these plates, right? So heating it for a certain cycle and maintaining it for a certain amount of time and then cooling it off slowly over time isn't a far cry if we're making a large plate or even test plates. So that's something else that's going to be tested here really soon. And even though certain articles I've read says that it wants a nitrogen-rich environment to truly get its full potential, that also wouldn't be too hard to make something that could have nitrogen gas in it. Because it's inert, it's not flammable. So I'm really excited to do some experimentation on that, and that will be for the vest, because I want the thinnest possible plate, lightest weight that can stop the highest caliber round. So I will keep you guys updated. If you follow this channel, if you're subscribed, you can go to the community tab. I try to do a weekly post on Tuesday or around it. I'm not always right on schedule with that, but I'm trying to be more consistent on my uploads, at least in that front. I'm also starting a Discord page that you guys can join in, so that way you guys can share your ideas with each other, pictures and whatnot. And I do a monthly live stream. The first Friday of every month at 5 o'clock Eastern Time, I go live and you guys can ask me questions there. But boy, that was a lot to cover, guys. I am so thankful that it's finally done. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this content. Please like and share it. I'm trying to grow this channel as we speak. So, see you guys in the next one. Take care.